White Words 1 and White Words 2 were part of my graduation exhibition in 1993. So they're only like half of the component of the larger work, so to speak. And it was a conflicting time for me because I was doing photography and other interdisciplinary studies, so I wasn't too sure what I was going to do for my major work. And because I had so many ideas in my head, I suppose this was the one that manifested about ideas, really. And I don't necessarily think it was the best outcome for that, but it was the beginning of me trying to mash different ideas together and sort of pull out something. I think the more successful work was a text piece, which was on the inside of the art building, the art college building, massive text piece, which I did photocopy letters because I couldn't afford vinyl printing, and I sort of cut every single letter out. And it said something like, the discursive productivity of the artistic medium, blah, 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 blah. It's because it was this art speak, so I was quite influenced by, you know, art speak. I really, you know, back then it was art speak. I didn't really understand what the hell that was all about. But I signed it Naraga Yambul Bungaragara, which means a crazy lie all over the place. So it's sort of like a play on subverting language, really, in the way, in perception, and also that sort of what spun off from that was White Words 1 and White Words 2, sort of looking at language again. And so one of them says coon, which is a black velvet, just like a painting, sort of, but it was a velvet, you know, painting size, but it was just velvet that I stretched over it, and it's got foam underneath it. And so the words coon, 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 you know, with this sort of cross in the middle, which sort of creates a bit of a like a, I don't know, a visual effect or something, but it also looks like a cross. And then there was another size canvas, the same with white velvet, with the words white words in a circle, which go white words, white words, white words, white words. So I mean, really I was looking at issues of black and white and trying to really see how relevant that is in regards to racism and perception and control, and certain histories are more favoured over other histories, and I think that those history wars, we're sort of dealing with them even more so now in the year 2006. So I think that's what was going through my head, but the thing that influences me about those three works together is that it was really a time where I started to play with language as ideas and subversion, and then I went on from that creating artworks which is text with image, which become more about international ideas or relationships or issues. Black Words won an award in 1993, the Mary Alice Evatt Award, and that was exhibited at Art Space in Sydney. And that was given out by Anita Keating, and I think that work was a lot successful in regards to it being a new piece of visual work for me that sort of was looking at signage and advertising and language, like Wiradjuri language and English language. So that sort of stuff was really quite exciting for me. And since that award, it sort of went on to getting acclaim in sort of other areas as well. And Judy Annear, who was the curator of the 1995 Perspecta at the Art Gallery of New South Wales, contacted me by just looking at my undergraduate artwork, especially of Black Words 1. So that's how I came to be in Perspecta in 95. And that was quite confronting for me because all of a sudden I was out of art school and in Perspecta, and that Perspecta was very prestigious at the time. Well, it still is, you know, if it existed anymore. It's such a great survey show of Australian art. It's a shame it's not there anymore. And that was quite a confronting experience, but that went on, you know, with me creating more text work. And I did like a Demtel ad sort of style of artwork about identity. And it said, for a switched on identity called Gwangi Cook. And Gwangi means crazy. So it's sort of looking at, you know, identity in Australia and call crazy Captain Cook if you want to. And so that was a sort of playful nature back then, and you had 4 different phone numbers that you could call up. And you'd have 4 different recordings of 4 different Aboriginal people talking about stuff. It's very provocative. I think that White Words 1 and White Words 2 were received very well, and they were provocative, but they were provocative to different people for different reasons. And I think that, you know, some Aboriginal people found it provocative because White Words 1 and White Words 2 refers to skin, like black velvet and white velvet, and women weren't treated very well, and they were raped or, you know, used as sexual, you know, prostitutes or, you know, whatever in early colonial days, even up to, like, you know, the 60s and the 70s, and probably even now. I mean, Tracy Moffat's created, you know, artworks about, you know, the captain and the Aboriginal girl and going out and getting a captain, and, you know, so there's all these histories in our Australian culture where black velvet is a very derogatory term in regards to getting a bit of, you know, black sex, and so that was very confronting for some. And the words coon, 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 coon and white words, I think were not as confronting, but also I was dealing with issues that not many other city artists were dealing with at the time. I mean, there was, you know, Ree, and there was Michael Riley, and like a whole bunch of artists who were dealing with racism and all of that, but I didn't really sort of know them then. And so growing up in the western suburbs and then showing this work, I don't think people really knew how to relate to it because it was either confronting or they didn't understand what it meant. So to look at it again now, I think that it fits into a certain history, you know, and I think that other artists like Vernon Arkey, for example, are really looking at language again today. So it's sort of, yeah, that's where it sort of comes from, and I think that's something that is important in art making, you know, sort of looking at those terms, and yeah.